Gypsy Rose's book signing is coming up, and I do not suggest or condone this, but imagine if everyone arrived dressed as Ruby, because that's what she wants to brush under the carpet, or David Blanchard, or...
Oh, Gypsy Rose is at it again, spinning her web of stories for anyone willing to listen. And this time, she's using her latest book as the perfect platform to do just that.
I think the obvious ones are Dee or herself in a wheelchair. Oh, everyone go in a wheelchair. But don't forget to bring your cakes with number candles on, because she lied about that.
Let me break it down because, honestly, the audacity is wild. Gypsy has been on a mission lately, hopping from interviews to social media, feeding the public her version of the story, and let's just say it's giving main character syndrome. Earlier this week, she popped up on WWL for an interview about her life, her book, and of course to sprinkle in a little more of that poor mean narrative she loves so much.
In the book, do you share at all your feelings now when you are able to look back at this point in your life about how you feel maybe about her decision making? What sort of thoughts do you put?
Here's the kicker. When asked why she decided to write a book now, after all the drama and time in prison, Gypsy claimed it was something she'd always wanted to do. She even went as far as saying her mother's side of the family encouraged and approved of it. Like, excuse me?
In the book that people might be interested to learn?
I absolutely do. I dive deep and get very vulnerable to the point that you get to see on page.
This is the same book where she makes disturbing allegations about her own grandfather, and we're supposed to believe her mom's family is all in on this? This is a conversation that's often been made for over half a lifetime.
My emotions ranging from rage to acceptance to vulnerability. Like, you get a range of my emotions when it comes to my mother and my past.
Any hope that this is a resource people are willing to offer to you will leave. Let's be real, they've stayed quiet for a reason. If anything, it seems like they want absolutely nothing to do with her or this circus she keeps orchestrating.
Your story is a controversial one that a lot of people think, at least, that they know the story and your life story. A lot of people could have got out of prison and just stayed in the shadows. You chose to be.
Gypsy also tried to slide in this narrative about how her mom's side didn't approve of the documentaries about her life, but apparently gave their blessing for the book. Girl, what? She had no problem dragging them into those documentaries, making them relive all that trauma, but now she's pretending this book is some noble gesture to honor their wishes?
Very vocal on social media with this book. Why a book? Why share your story?
Well, the book was something that I always wanted to happen, and it was something that even my mother's side of the family definitely encouraged and approved of. I know they weren't very supportive of a lot of the documentaries and everything, but they always felt support for me and support.
It's giving damage control. And honestly, it feels like a desperate attempt to make herself look good. Let's not forget her mom isn't here to defend herself anymore, so Gypsy has free reign to rewrite the story however she wants. Convenient, right? Then there's the whole spiel about the title, My Time to Stand.
For me, sharing my story in a book. So I think that that was important to honor their wishes, my wishes, share my voice in a proper way.
That's pretty empowering to have, the her side of the family then encourage you to have your voice in the book. I guess because you could make sure the words are that of your own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gypsy said she was really intentional about using the word stand because it symbolizes independence, freedom, and empowerment. She went on about how it's not just about physically standing, even though we all know she could stand the whole time her mom claimed she couldn't. According to her, the title is about emotional resilience and reclaiming her life. But here's the thing, if this is her big moment to stand tall, why does it still feel like she's leaning so hard on this victim narrative? It's always about how her mom's actions forced her into making those decisions, never about fully owning up to what she did.
The title is one that has, some meaning for you as well. And, Let's talk a little bit about that. My time to stand. What does that mean for you?
I really wanted the word stand in the title. I was very strong on that because
when the interviewer cautiously brought up the murder, because let's face it, that's what everyone wants to know about, Gypsy did her usual tap dance around the topic. She said she didn't go into much detail in the book because she didn't want to over-dramatize or traumatize it. Instead, she claims she focused on helping readers understand her mindset at the time.
standing up for yourself, standing on your own 2 feet, all of that has multiple meanings. So like independence, freedom, physically standing. So it's more than just physically standing. It's emotional and it's empowering. So I really wanted the word stand to be in the title.
Translation, she's still centering herself as the victim. It's all about how she felt, what she was going through, and why she made that choice, not about the fact that her decision led to her mother's brutal death. Honestly, it's exhausting. Gypsy keeps trying to frame this as her redemption story, but it feels more like a carefully curated PR campaign.
And, getting into that, I know you talked a little bit about in learning to stand for yourself, you made some mistakes.
Yes.
One of those that you severely regret. Do you go into that in the book when that decision was made, when you were trying to stand for yourself?
I do. It's not a big portion in the book because I really just didn't want to focus or over-dramatize that. So I just kind of wanted to tell the story, the events that unfold.
She wants sympathy, she wants validation, and she wants us to see her as this strong, empowered woman who overcame unimaginable odds. But let's not forget the reality here. Gypsy orchestrated her mom's murder. No matter how many books she writes or interviews she gives, that fact doesn't change. And while she's busy painting herself as a survivor, there's still a trail of unanswered questions and contradictions in her story.
And kind of get into my mindset so readers can understand where I was at mentally and emotionally at that point to come to that decision.
Do you think the book gave you a chance to give a side of your story that maybe people don't know?
Absolutely. The thing I love about the book is it doesn't tell just my story. It also goes into a little bit more of my mom's story and how she got to be how she was.
It's giving manipulation 101, so she says she wrote the book to help readers understand why she made the ultimate decision to, unalive her mother. Gypsy wants us to get into her emotional and mental state at the time and basically justify her actions in our heads. I'm like, girl, you're trying to sell a book and this is your pitch? Don't over-dramatize it, but also please sympathize with my decision. It's giving contradictory vibes, and the audacity is unreal. Here's the problem. This whole book feels like a glorified excuse to make people see her as the fragile victim who had no other choice. And let's not pretend the public is eating this up. It's actually kind of off-putting. Like, why should anyone want to read a $26 book that's basically a drawn-out explanation of why she did what she did? It doesn't sit right with the general public's moral compass. And let's be real, it feels like emotional manipulation wrapped in a glossy cover.
Do you share at all your feelings now when you are able to look back at this point in your life about how you feel maybe about her decision making? What sort of thoughts do you put in the book that people might be interested to learn?
I absolutely do. I dive deep and get...
Now, when the interviewer pressed Gypsy on whether the book offers any new perspectives or details we don't already know, she claimed it's not just her story, it's also her mom's story. Excuse me? She says, and I quote, "I love that the book doesn't just tell my story. It goes a little into my mom's story and how she became who she was. But let's unpack that for a second. How can you claim to tell your mother's story when the only perspective you're sharing is yours? Dee isn't here to give her side. So all we're getting is Gypsy's interpretation of her mother's actions. Make it make sense. She's literally presenting her own biased viewpoint as a stand-in for her mom's truth. And that's just
very vulnerable, to the point that you get to see on page my emotions ranging from rage to acceptance to vulnerability. Like, you get a range of my emotions when it comes to my mother and my past.
not it. Oh, and Gypsy got all deep about the emotional range in her book. Rage, acceptance, vulnerability, all the buzzwords. But did she actually answer the question about what readers would learn? Not really. It's just more of the same. Gypsy's emotions, her victimhood, her journey. At this point, it feels less like an insightful memoir and more like an overpriced therapy session. Who's spending $26 to read about her vulnerable moments without any real accountability? Not me, babe. But wait, it gets juicier. The interviewer asked her how she feels about becoming a new mom, given her complicated history with motherhood. And Gypsy couldn't wait to declare how excited and confident she is.
What I love about the book is it doesn't tell just my story.
Mhm.
It also goes into a little bit more of my mom's story and how she got to be how she was.
She's all about how she's making vastly different choices than her mom ever did. Sure, she's got a support system, and she made sure to hype up her stepmother Christy as her guiding light to motherhood. Sweet, right? Except, did anyone notice she didn't even mention the father of her child? Like, not a peep about Ken Urker. Shouldn't his name have been the first thing out of her mouth?
The book, do you share at all your feelings now when you are able to look back at this point in your life about how you feel maybe about her decision making? What sort of thoughts do you put in the book that people might be interested to learn?
I absolutely do. I dive deep, and
I mean, if Ken is the father of her child, he should be a huge part of this support system, right? Unless, of course, he's absent. And let's not even start on Gypsy's idea of doing things vastly different from her mom. By different, does she mean using her pregnancy as social media clout? Posting ultrasound photos and tagging baby product companies for sponsorships? Because that's definitely a choice. And if Christy is such a wonderful role model, why didn't Gypsy take a moment to mention how Maya, Christy's daughter, turned out perfectly fine under her guidance?
get very vulnerable, to the point that you get to see on page my emotions ranging from rage to acceptance to vulnerability. Like, you get a range of my emotions when it comes to my mother and my past.
The whole thing feels like Gypsy trying to convince the world, and maybe herself, that she's breaking the cycle, but the contradictions just keep piling up. Let's talk about this whole Habitat for Humanity scandal, because apparently documents are linking her to her ex-fiancé, yes, you read that right, even though she's still legally married to Ryan. Like, what is even going on in her life? Gypsy claims to have this solid support system, but based on all this mess, it's looking like she'll be left fending for herself when it comes to raising her child. Because, babe, if she's trying to convince us she won't repeat her mother's mistakes, she's got a funny way of showing it. Then how?
Done with pregnancy. Due in January.
Due in January,
So you're
yes.
right around the corner.
I know, I'm getting there.
How are you feeling about that?
I'm excited. I'm really happy. This is a really special time for us. And so we're enjoying nesting and we're getting ready. So we're happy about it.
And so you did share, it's a girl.
It's a girl,
And you
yes.
shared her name?
Yes, it's going to be Aurora Raina Euchre.
Beautiful. You're talking about this book and how vulnerable you get and stepping into this.
In true Gypsy fashion, she rounded off her latest interview by hyping up her meet and greet event at the Garden District Bookshop in New Orleans on the 13th at 5 p.m. She gushed about how excited she is to meet her fans, snap some selfies, sip tea, and sign copies of her book. Sounds cute, right? Except the internet has other plans. Turns out, concerned citizens are organizing a full-on protest outside the event, complete with a vigil in memory of her mother. The same mother Gypsy unalived. Let's be real, it's not exactly the vibe Gypsy was going for. But did the reporter even mention this brewing controversy? Nope. not a word. It's almost as if they were sticking to some pre-approved softball script designed to let Gypsy slide right past the hard questions.
Well, very punny, but new chapter of your life.
Right.
When you're looking back now, being a mother, and that can change us in so many ways. How does it feel that you don't have your own mother, and then just the life that you've led? How do you feel about becoming a new mom at this stage?
I'm excited about becoming a new mother. I know that there is a lot of eyes on me that are kind of
The vibe queen. And don't even get me started on how these mainstream media outlets are handling this. Instead of digging into the real issues, they're out here giving Gypsy a platform to spin her story again and again. Remember when Rolling Stone published that one-sided puff piece? Yeah, this feels like deja vu. The public is noticing too, and let me tell you, they are not happy. Social media is ablaze with people calling out these interviews for treating Gypsy like she's still the fragile, traumatized victim. I mean, we're talking about someone who masterminded a literal crime. But sure, let's all hold her hand and act like nothing happened.
how are you going to be different than your mom?
Right.
And I'm already making vastly different choices than my mother made, even in my pregnancy. So I'm going into it confident. I have a great support system with me. So it's not like I'm alone. I have a wonderful stepmom. Her name is Christy. And she is definitely my guiding light to motherhood.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And let's address the elephant in the room. Gypsy claiming her mother's side of the family supports this book. People are not buying it, babe. Like, why would they back a book that portrays Dee Dee as some sort of evil mastermind, when all she wanted was to give Gypsy a comfortable life? Sure, her methods were extreme, but this narrative Gypsy keeps pushing, it's just not adding up. And where is this supposed family support anyway? Nobody from Dee Dee's side has come forward to endorse this book or Gypsy's version of events. The public isn't holding back their thoughts on Gypsy's so-called support system either. Let's talk about Ken, the baby daddy. She didn't even mention him as part of her support system. Red flag much? People are already speculating that Ken and Gypsy might not even be together anymore, but they're keeping up appearances to avoid more backlash. And remember when Ken was a no-show during her court proceedings? Yeah, that doesn't scream supportive partner to me.
And, just moving forward, there is an opportunity with this book signing today for people to get out and meet you. I know you wanted to talk a bit about that.
Yes, so I will be at a meet and greet, so people can come take selfies with me and get a copy of my book at the Garden District, Garden District bookstore.
Honestly, the internet is calling it like it is. Gypsy is still out here manipulating the narrative. She's bouncing from one media outlet to another, spreading half-truths like it's her full-time job. First, the documentaries, now the book. What's next? A reality TV show? It's giving professional victim, and people are over it. And let's not ignore the fact that if Gypsy was truly dealing with trauma and abuse, wouldn't therapy have been a better route than these endless media tours? Like, who keeps rehashing their pain in public unless they're looking for attention and cash?
And so it's going to be good. It's going to be great. I look forward to it.
That's
so
awesome.
I get to meet everybody.
Yeah, they can get the book, they get it
Get the
signed by
book,
you.
signed, everything. So it's going to be amazing.
Awesome. We love that. Well, thank you for taking the time to come in and be with us and just share more of your story. I know this
you.
isn't easy to do, but we appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations again on your pregnancy.
So what do you think, babe? Is Gypsy getting way too comfortable in her heroine persona? Or do you think the public is finally catching on to her game? And how do we think her meet and greet is going to play out with protesters outside? Will Gypsy keep up the act, or is she finally running out of lies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for all the latest celebrity drama, because trust me, this tea isn't cooling off anytime soon.